We're continuing with Stone's ABC method of crisis intervention, and now we're going to look at a section called extreme interventions, or the crisis situation in the extreme. And as Stone mentions on page 58, and you can follow me there on this page, he said, for most clergy, crises are a normal part of the work week. People in their care experience bereavement, job loss, discovery of a spouse's infidelity, teenage pregnancy, cancer, abandonment, divorce, and they are thrown into turmoil. At such times, they often turn to the pastor for support, but occasionally ministers are drawn into situations that are not so common, that are tougher, more complex, and even more dangerous than those human crises they face with regularity. The phone rings at 2 a.m. and the minister stumbles for the receiver. An unfamiliar voice blurts, "You don't know me, but I just wanted to tell someone why I am doing this. I can't take it anymore. I can't keep living this way. I have 50 signals, and I've already taken half of them." The pastor of a small town church gets a call from a deputy who tells him that the sheriff is out of town, that the postmaster, a solitary but apparently respectable man, has gone berserk. He has a gun, and he's taken 2 hostages, and he's making all kinds of crazy demands. I know he went to your church once in a while. Can you come and talk to him? The church's secretary and his female pastor are besieged with a series of obscene and subtly threatening telephone calls by an individual who is often incoherent and expresses a deep hatred of women. A woman runs into a minister's office in a panic. Her daughter and son-in-law, who live next door to the church, have been arguing for 3 days, and it has suddenly escalated into a violent physical fight. Would you please do something to stop them before someone gets hurt? And Stone mentions here that the ABC method of crisis intervention facilitates intervention for most problems that are encountered. But extreme circumstances, such as those mentioned above, however rare, cause great concern to those trying to offer care. Threatened homicide, suicide, physical abuse, kidnapping, or the taking of a hostage, a grisly death, an explosion at a plant, or the crash of a commercial airplane are typical crisis situations that may call for additional and distinctive modes of intervention. This chapter touches on such critical interventions, included are telephone emergencies, suicide threats, high-risk situations, and threats to the health or safety. Now let's look at the telephone situation here, and I'll be going back and forth in terms of Stone. And here we're looking at telephone situations and characteristic of telephone calls, which can be both negative and positive. In telephone calls, the caller has greater control of the situation, and that is a truth there. That person at any period in time can hang up on you, and so therefore they do have the control of the situation. The caller has far more anonymity. Yes, you might not know this individual that is the caller. Sometimes persons, even at my own church, I might know their faces many times, but sometimes I'm not familiar with their voices. There are some who I am familiar with their voices, but there are others I'm not quite familiar with their voices. So therefore, you can imagine someone who calls and you're not familiar with their voices, you're not familiar as to who they are. So therefore, this gives some anonymity to the caller. The helper is not personally known by the caller, and sometimes that will happen too, where you as a pastor, minister, might not be known by the caller. And helpers are more accessible by phone than by appointment. And now this plays a critical part here in an interesting way, especially when you find somebody who's in distress, and especially if you know that somebody who is primarily suicidal. You are accessible by phone, and we just hope that that a lot of the ministers, if they're not in their office, they do have their cell phones with them. There are situations where cell phones are cut off as such, but they do have a voice here where you can leave a voice message. But most of the time, majority of the pastors are pretty much accessible even when they're not at their office or not at their homes. I can understand the distress of someone when they're trying to get in contact with a pastor or minister, and they call the church and they get a recording. They might call the home and get a recording and nobody's there, and then they call the cell phone and they get a recording on the cell phone also. Why? Because I myself have had the experience, and I was, when leaving the voice message, I was hoping that the person would get to me as quickly as possible. Some of the situations that were definitely potentially crisis situations, I needed to and I needed to contact this person's pastor, and because there was a death in the family. And the thing that happened is that many times I called the pastor, but I couldn't, the pastor that wasn't readily there, and so therefore I left a voice message for the pastor. But the thing that I also did too is call my pastor, and many times when I called my pastor would answer his cell phone, and so I would tell him that I'm trying to get hold to Pastor so-and-so, which he knew very well. He said, well, if you can't get him, I'll get him. And so therefore he had got on the phone and was able to get him as such. But it's good to have that kind of network as such also. When you can't get that pastor, the person's pastor, what it might be, maybe your pastor might be to really know where he is and let him know. And then the other good part about it is that if it's necessary for the person to come, to be the pastor to come there, it's good when you have several pastors, including the person's pastor, that you make contact with, and they can, my pastor as well as maybe some of the other ones, come into the situation. And I've had many situations where all of a sudden, and it was not unexpected, but persons are never prepared for it. Well, I've gotten a call myself, and persons have told me that so-and-so, a brother, a sister so-and-so just passed away, and at so-and-so hospital or at the nursing home as such. And I find myself on the way, and just in case they had not contacted their pastor, I'll myself call and see whether I can make contact with the pastor. But I knew that was very important for me, as well as the pastors and the ministers, to get there as such. But again, phone calls are definitely we're more accessible when you can get in contact with a person by phone than by having to wait for an appointment or what it might be. And here Stone speaks about, and I'm not going word for word in terms of Stone, just bringing out some things. He says, steps to take when a distressed person calls you. And one of the things that I really always have to be aware of is that always be attuned to not only your own state of mind, your own state of being, your own what might be going on with you at that period in time, but also have, I really think that it is true in terms of when Psalms, first division of Psalms speaks about the one who meditates on the Word of God day and night. You meditate on His Word day and night, and so it's very important to have in the process of your daily activities, what it might be, to be doing some type of meditation upon the Word of God. It's very important in your daily life, in your day, is to really always be prayerful, and you can pray at any time, whether you're in your car, whether you're in your home, whether you're in your church, what it might be. You can pray at any time, because you will have to keep in mind that definitely the Word of God is true, and that He will keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on Him. And so therefore you need to have a certain peace of mind, which is very easier said than done because so much things are happening. And I know pastors and ministers and most people are very busy and making many decisions and so many things are coming about. But I do believe in the Word of God when He says He will keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on Him. So it said steps to take when a distressed person calls you. Number A, first and foremost, get the caller's name, phone number, and address if at all possible. This will be important information should the call become an emergency or you become disconnected or need to follow up later. And that is something you want to really do. And you have to have the presence of mind in terms of really being able to request in a way that the person would be okay in terms of giving you their name. It's very important to get that phone number the person is calling from, and of course get the address. There's one situation, I think that Stone might have spoken of that situation also, where a young man called the minister, the pastor. The young man was in a lot of distress, and it just so happened that the pastor was able to get the young man's name and get the number, and for some reason or other the call was cut off, and so the pastor was able to call the young man back, and the young man was very relieved. He was saying that was all he had, the money he had in terms of making a call from a telephone booth. And so therefore it's good that the pastor had the number to call him back, because if he had not been able to do that, then it could have been not a good situation for the young man. And so therefore always get the caller's name and phone number also. B, determine the parameters of the problem. Does the crisis involve other persons? If so, how many? Are drugs or alcohol involved? Are there weapons on the premises? And have they been used? Has there been any abuse? And if so, what are the extent and seriousness of the injuries? And yes, you need to get as much information you can in terms of where the person might be, whether there are other persons involved here, what is the nature of your call, the situation. And you might want to get a sense in terms of whether there any kind of drug or alcohol involved. There are persons who might tell you that my husband is tearing up the house here, and he's just as drunk as he can be. He's been drinking. And it is important to establish whether there are any kind of weapons on the premises, be they guns or what it might be, that can be utilized. And we hope that no one has used anything of that nature. I know that there was one situation where the lady had called the minister. Was not a pastor, but she knew this minister and had given him a call and was very concerned because yes, her husband had gotten very upset with her. That had an argument. He had taken a gun and went into the bathroom and locked the door. And so when the minister was talking to her on the telephone, she had informed him of that. And so when he did arrive, he was aware of the fact that, well, it's not a good situation in there in terms of his having that gun, and got the door locked. And so it took some doing on his part in terms of being able to really talk with this guy and to really get him to eventually come out and give him the gun. There are some situations where you might even inquire many times if there's something going on here on the premises from the call that you get, which I always ask persons, where are you in terms of in the house? Where are you? One of the places that's a very dangerous place to be is in the bedroom, because a lot of people keep their weapons in the bedrooms. One of the other dangerous places for the persons to be happen to be in the kitchen. There are too many knives and weapons there in terms of the kitchen, and so therefore, it's very important to really kind of get a sense in terms of where the persons might be in terms of the situation that they're calling about. Yeah, you want to know whether there's been any kind of abuse in terms of the person who's calling. Have you been hurt, or have you been attacked, and so forth and so on? Have you hurt someone yourself, you know? Because, as I mentioned before, the lady that called her minister, and because it was domestic argument with her husband, I'm certain that there might have been some other things going on in terms of alcohol, what it might be. I'm not too certain about that, but and it was many years ago, something that was in the newspaper where she called her minister and her pastor, and he took his associate minister with him to the situation. Now, he did not, at that period in time, get a very clear picture in terms of the parameters of the problem. He didn't really inquire about, you know, we know it's your husband here you're calling about, you know, where are you, you know, where's your husband, you know, are there no weapons available such as knives or guns, and just kind of get a clear picture in terms of what might be going on prior to just going blindly into the situation. But many times we don't think about that, especially when you have someone that you know, or the pastor, his member is calling. One of the elements that was interesting here is that she was a member of his church, but her husband wasn't. She had a relationship with the pastor, but her husband didn't. And so that's another dynamic you have to really keep in mind. And don't assume just because you are a pastor or a minister, don't assume because you are and going into these very volatile situations that people are going to show due respect for you. When persons are in an escalated state of mind, emotionally, psychologically, many times they're not in too much control of their faculties, and they're in a no caring and don't care sort of state of mind, and they can be very dangerous as such. But it just so happened, as I mentioned before, that he took his associate minister with him, and the associate minister, of course, probably wasn't even thinking also, because if your pastor tells you, let's go, we got a situation here, and I need you to go with me, most of the associate ministers will go with their pastors as such, and that's understandable. And so, but the thing about it is that as they entered the home, that's when the husband, in a rage already, grabbed a knife and started stabbing both of them. And I can only just say, only by the grace of God, that they did not die. They were not killed. And it was just by the grace of God also that they were able to recover from their wounds. But it's something that, again, heads up. Get an idea of what the parameters of the problem. You got time. You do have time. And that's the thing I always have to remind myself, is that you got some time. You got time, okay, to get some, it's just a few seconds to get some information. And that might be a lifesaver there. There are some situations, if necessary, you might have to call 911. You know, you might be and have the police on the way over there. It might be a wise thing to do that also. But understand that you do have time. You need to get some more information in terms of what's going on to really find out what's happening. These kind of situations, anyway, when you do get calls in terms of volatile situations, or sometimes persons get so upset with one another in terms of husband-wife fights or arguments, what it might be, they definitely would pull in a third party to come in to referee or what it might be. And so it just might be just a basic squabble that they're having, and you're the third party as that minister pastor they're calling in there, without their recognizing that just that third person coming in there could really create more of a problem in terms of the situation. So therefore, determine the parameters of the problem. Number C, do not hesitate should you have the proper information to get help to their location should help be needed. If you must break contact to do so, then break contact. After you have telephoned for help, attempt to get them on the line again. And that is one of the things here. Even in this kind of situation here, and as you notice, I'm not really following Stone per se. It's a lot of stuff from my own experiences. And if you, even if a person is in a crisis as such, that's why I mentioned about you having resources available, because and knowing what the crisis line or the crisis people that are in your area, because yes, it was an emergency. If it's a situation that sounds very volatile, it would be good, first of all, to get 911 in there. But if it's a situation where a person is an emotional, psychological sort of thing going on there, you might need to have also a mental health professional to go in there, or somebody from the crisis team to go in there also. And many times I would really like the fact if the person can have if there is an indication and they give you a little bit information in terms of the person might have a mental disorder as such, and because of the person's not having, they tell they didn't not take their medication that helps them to be okay and stable, mood stabilized, what it might be, and so therefore, and they're refusing to take their medication, but they tell you about that they have a mental disorder, then it would be good if you can also have the person's not only you call the 911. I have to apologize for this. I should have cut my phone off. But you can also have a mental health professional or a crisis mental health person to come in, hopefully to go in with the police officers, because many times they have more of an understanding of the mental disorders that are happening than the police officers. When the police officers see a certain kind of behavior in terms of reminds as violent, what it might be, they're going to subdue that person. That's all to it. You know, they're not going to be looking in terms of whether it might be, and so therefore, like one lady that was showing me a house many years ago that I was interested in trying to purchase, and she, in the process of showing me the house, she really broke down and started crying. Well, it was very unusual, but I felt that it's nice that she was aware of the fact I was a minister. She felt comfortable enough to just let it all hang out. But many times when you're in a crisis state, it comes. It comes. And so therefore, you know, she talked to me about, I said, well, you care to share with me what might be happening or going on? I said, I'm all ears. I said, I'm here. I said, here you are helping me. I said, hey, you know, I'll be happy to help you also. And so she had told me about a situation involving a relative of hers, a son, and he had become pretty violent, and she really knew that he had not taken his medication. He had a certain kind of mental disorder, and when he does not take his medication, an adult son, when he didn't take his medication, he became very violent, and so he was being very violent in the home and so forth and so on. And so she was didn't know what to do other than to call the 911. And of course, when the police came, they saw his behavior, and she said she was trying to tell the police officers that you know, he had a mental illness there, and he hadn't taken his medication, and was thinking that they were going to show some kind of compassion. But no, they grabbed him, handcuffed him, in the process of putting him in a squad car, his head ended up bumping the deal there, and they treated him in a real rough manner, and took him down to the station. And she had said that she did call someone from the crisis line, but they had not come. They didn't come. And so And she said that, well, after they checked her son out and so forth and so on and held him for a little bit and found out that he surely did have a mental disorder, that her son now was very angry with her and won't speak to her, and so therefore she's feeling very hurt and very terrible that she even called the police in. She wished that she had not done it, and so therefore she was really hurting in terms of what, in other words, she needed some help, and in terms of what to do in terms of her son. And so one of the things that I knew that, oh yes, the thing that happened here, now it comes back to mind. She had called the crisis line. She had called the crisis people, and the crisis people are the one that called 911. And sent the police out rather than themselves going out with the police or having the police meet them there. And so therefore that's what had happened. And so therefore she told me that, well, I needed to first of all take care of the immediate thing that needed to be done and to help this lady to get a kind of a focus here and then be okay. And then I would deal with the other part later on in terms of the inappropriateness of what the crisis worker had done. And so I asked her, would you mind if I were to talk with your son? Would you allow me an opportunity to talk with your son? And so she said yes, yes, and she gave me the number. And I called him and I asked him, talked to him, I told my name, introduced myself. And I said, I'm aware of the fact that last evening you weren't feeling too good and you had not taken your medication, but the police officers came in and they treated you very badly. And I said, I really need to apologize for that happening to you. And even my saying that, he started to really telling me about the situation and how bad he felt and what they did to him and so forth and so on, and made him very upset and so forth and so on. And I told him, I said, well, it's unfortunate that I said I'll be checking that situation out for you and making certain that that doesn't happen again. But in the meantime, I said that do you see anyone in terms of counseling? He said, yes, I have a psychiatrist that I see who prescribes medication for me. But the only thing I do is that when I go there, he'll ask me how am I doing, and I say okay, and then he'll put the medication give me the medication. I said, well, that's good and fine, because you do need to have your medication. I say, however, one of the things that need to go along with your medication is that you have to have someone to really work with you in terms of working through, working with some of the process and some of the things that you're experiencing in terms of your problems and so forth and so on. And so therefore, I would like to have it assessed that we can make some arrangements in terms of someone, you have the psychiatrist prescribing the medication, but we also want to have someone to be able to work with you, to be able to work through some things that are going on with you. And I told him, I said, by the way, your mother, at the moment, she's feeling awfully horrible and awfully hurt and even afraid to come back home because she feels that you're so angry with her in terms of, and really angry with her because you feel that she called the police on you. She did not call the police on you. The crisis people that she made contact with did that. And so your mother's really hurt about it. And I just do hope that you forgive your mom. And which you did. And then, of course, I took it from there in terms of calling the guy that was in charge of the crisis people, which I knew, and he said that the way that they went about doing it was not the correct way. And he said that he would take care of that part. But it's just kind of interesting sometimes in terms of, yes, and situations, you need to be able to get the help for the person when it's needed and from the resources that's needed. But at the same time, you have to really have heads up in terms of what help goes out there and what does not go out. So you have to kind of be careful about that. Stone goes on to say is that if you feel that it is important, try to set up a meeting with the caller. You need to be flexible in both time and location. If you do meet with the caller, make certain you have made precautions for your own safety. And of course, again, Stone, one of the things I want to do in terms of talking about this is that, it's very important in terms of your really, if necessary, having some type of meeting with the person who's calling you in terms of the help. It all depends upon the nature of the call, yes, and the nature of the help that they need in terms of situation, yes. There are some persons who feel comfortable going out into the situation. There are some persons who would feel more comfortable with the person coming to the office. But it's according to how that person is sounding and the situation would make a determination whether that person will actually come to your office or not. Even if the person doesn't know you, that's another deal. So that might not work there. So my deal is that when I feel somebody's in crisis and they kind of give an idea of where they're located, and I kind of get an idea that, hey, well, if it's somebody in my congregation, I still need to have some more. Well, many times it might be a good chance that I might just go out there. But in the process of going out there, and I know Stone speaks about it in the book here, and we might get to it eventually, my feelings are that even when you go out to the situation, you always have the Spirit of God with you and leading you. The Spirit of God, many times, as far as I'm concerned, if the situation is not safe for you, praise the Lord, make you confused that you can't even find a place, but always make certain that the Spirit of God is leading and guiding you in terms of going out there to the situation that you might be okay going out there. And there are many situations, yes, I went out, and it was just so happened that things turned out okay. A lot of situations that I went out into are situations where someone has lost a loved one, and persons were very angry, person was very sad. There are situations that I've had where persons have a young person, adult too, but especially some young persons who were threatening to do harm to themselves. And of course, the person, counselor, or somebody connected with that individual at that time would call me and ask me whether I would come out to really see whether I can talk with a young person that was threatening suicide. Very clearly about one situation, and I was wondering myself, I said, now I don't know why, the person's made contact with me, but I guess God knows the situation better than I do, but they called me about this adolescent lady, young lady, about 16 or 17 really, and saying that she was very suicidal. And we'll get to that part too, and that she was planning, and that she was upset, and talking about walking out in front of some cars and let the car kill her, and she was very agitated. And I said, well, who's there? Where is she? First of all, and was at one of the outpatient counseling places that she was at, and I guess evidently she wasn't with her counselor, but she was with her mother that had brought her there to the place. And being a mother brought her there because she was very suicidal and so forth and so on. She was very angry with her mother. And so I'm going out there and not really myself knowing this family, the family knowing me or the young lady, being very proud. I said, well, Lord, they asked me whoever called, the person that called me knew about me, knew of me, but and so I'm going out here in this little room that everybody's kind of stuck in, and which bothers me sometimes, a little small room there, and a young lady was very agitated, and was very upset. It was mentioned about the nature of what had made her upset and so forth and so on, very hostile toward her mother, mother had the little young sister with her also, and I guess it was gotten so bad that mom couldn't keep having time to put the young sister someplace. They had to come over, and so I really asked the young lady. I said, "Well, is there anyone here at this facility here that you trust?" And she said, "That you trust, do you know?" And she said, "Yeah, that's," and she told me, said, "Yes, there's a counselor here." And I said that, "Would you care to share, tell me the counselor's name?" And she told me her name, and I said, I asked one of the other persons, the counselor, the person who worked there, "Is that counselor available?" And they said, "Well, we'll go and see." And so therefore, they went, and I thank God that the counselor was available, a female counselor, and so she came in, and I said that young lady here, and as you know, she's very agitated, and this period in time seemed as though she wants to do some injury to herself, and she said that she trusted you. And I said, "I would like for you to come and sit with her, and let's talk about some things." And so I basically in the process of the counselor, she knew she trusted talking with what it might be. I was telling mom to really just be kind of cool it there because you're escalating her. And in the process of doing that, the trust that she had with the counselor, and the counselor knew me, the one that she trusted, then that I didn't seem to be a threat to a young lady. It might be I seemed to be listening to her. So therefore, I was able to take it from there, where we moved on back to the house, to the home, and I talked with them there in terms of some things, and was able to really get the young lady in a state where if she felt that she was going to do some harm to herself, she can always call me. But at the same time, if she felt she was old enough, if she felt that she was really a danger to herself, I wanted her to really promise me. I didn't bother with the mom because she was very hostile to mom. Would she be willing to go and voluntarily put herself in a mental health facility? And she said yes. And it just so happened that one of the issues that could have really made this thing pretty bad news was the fact that they were not Christians per se. They were of another religious bent, and that was one of the things that really agitated the young lady also, the religious deal that they belonged to. That was one that was really causing a lot of frustration for her. And of course, the mother was very looking at me in terms of, well, knowing that a minister might be, a Christian might be, and I just had it assessed that that was not the issue. At the moment, the issue is this young lady's safety and her well-being, and so I kept it on that. But the overall end result is that the young lady, when she felt that she could not contain what it might be anymore, I got a call from her later on that night, and she said that, "Well, here I am. I'm at the place." And I said, "Well, I'll be there." And I went straight on over to the hospital and what it might be, and sure enough, that she was arguing. I said, "You know what? I am so proud of you. I'm so glad that you did this, and that's great, and went from there as such." So therefore, many times you might need to have that flexibility to be able to go out when persons do call you. Of course, ministers, I'm certain, the expectation is that you have that flexibility. The expectation is that when I call a pastor or minister, that they're going to come out and really help me here. That's that expectation, in all honesty. Now, I must say that it's up to you to make the decision to do it. I always say you always got to really do some praying, and in the meantime, in the process of heading out, it's always good to even just go out there and just see. It might be a soul that you can save, but as Stone mentioned here, you also have to take some precautions here as you do that. and even in certain situations where you're going to a house, Stone speaks about it, and he might speak about it again as I look through some things here, but it's always good to not park directly sometime in front of the house, park a little bit down from it, and then walk up, and see what is what. It's not a good idea many times to even go and stand directly in front of the door when you go to this house. It's always a good idea to really stand to the side when you're ringing the doorbell or what it might be. Because I mentioned earlier, the unfortunate part is that many times we get a little bit too we get a little bit too much confidence here sometimes, and we just kind of take things for granted. And one of the a veteran mental health professional took this situation for granted when he got a call about this person who was really agitated in their home. And just because he had worked with this person before and the person's counsel was not available, he decided to go himself. He was that person's counsel supervisor, and he went there, and the unfortunate thing about it was that he stood right in front of the door, and of course the man shot through the screen and killed him on the spot. So therefore you really have to really use some precaution and be very cautious in the process of even going up to someone's home where you're aware of the fact that some situation there is kind of not all that great. And Stone here speaks about some suicidal sort of situations, and mentioning it is important to note that any and every call regarding suicide and every threat of suicide, whether major or minor, must be taken very seriously. And this is very important. One of the things that that was really tough for me, but at the same time was a very good learning experience for me, is when I was in the military, and a lot of the situations, a lot of persons who came up on the mental health ward were persons who had attempted suicide. And even when they were on the mental health ward, many times persons were still threatening to do away with themselves. There were persons who were caught in the nick of time from hanging themselves or from dying from an overdose when they were got the medical care and they were brought to our facility. Many times they were very angry. They had a lot of anger, and so therefore they were really angry, and some of them were angry just because the people were able to rescue them or to not allow them to die. They were angry with everybody, came in angry with us, as such. And so, but every threat of suicide, a person will kill myself, what it might be, take it very seriously. Don't just poo-poo it off. Don't just say, oh, they're just crying. No, take it very seriously. And of course, mentioned here, find out their age and gender. This is an important factor in terms of risk factor of them actually committing suicide. And yes, that's very important. We'll find, in all honesty, that many times the older male, as opposed to the younger female or the older female, many times the older male might be a little bit more high risk as such in terms of killing himself, the male especially. One of the things that I've known and research has indicated too, that there might be more attempts in terms of females, but the males many times are more successful because their means of doing it is more lethal. Many times they'll take the 38, what it might be, and really just blow themselves away. And so their method is more lethal as such when they do that as such. So you need to really look at the age as well as the gender, and determine if the person has a suicide plan. And don't be hesitant about that. Don't be hesitant about that. Have they thought of doing it? If so, how do they plan to? Do they have instruments available to do so? And it said, the special note, although an established plan does not mean the person will commit suicide, it is an indication of a more prominent threat. And if that person's got a plan and can tell you specifically exactly how they're going to go about doing it, you better believe that this is a threat here, where this person will need some type of monetary supervision and some help here, right there. It's unfortunate that one situation where the individuals did not pay attention to me in terms of the psychiatric work I was doing, and the person being in the psychiatric ward, and most of the time that individual had been very in a depressed state, and many times I had to really work very hard with this individual, just get them to just engage in activities. Of course, they got very angry with me, but I didn't care because I wanted them to get up and start moving. And one of the things the person was very distraught about is that they were being, it was kind of a forced retirement from the military, and they were very angry about that in terms of that, having put so many years in. And so therefore, because that was something that would just eat at them, and so they definitely had attempted suicide and ended up on the ward where I worked. And but most of the time I was there, that person was very down and depressed and so forth and so on. And when I got my orders to go to another base, I observed this person all of a sudden a different person. I didn't see that depressed, down person. I saw this person all happy and jolly and sociable and so forth and so on. And I inquired from the psychiatric nurse and the people there. I said, what happened here? I said that all of a sudden, this person here is, of course, is all ready and happy and so forth and so on. I said that this is not a wise, this is not good, And they said, oh, well, he's doing fine. I said, well, all of a sudden he's now happy, he's now social, he's now doing this. And I said, no. I said, this is a very dangerous situation here now. I said, what is he requesting? Well, he's requesting to go on a pass. I said, no. I said, that would be a terrible thing to do. I said that it's not a wise thing to let him go out on a pass now. It's too dangerous. He'll probably go on a pass and kill himself. And they, of course, ignored my advice. And here I am working many times with the people. I actually work with them. And I'm actually there elbow to elbow and dealing with them, passing out their medication and everything else. They chose to let him go out. And he went out and he blew his brains out. And I was very hurt when I heard about that. And so therefore many times when you find persons who might be in a depressed state and they've attempted suicide or what it might be, there's down and so forth and so on, and in a suicidal state of mind and depressed, and all of a sudden they come up and they are ready to, they're now, boom, just a big difference. And be aware of the fact that many times that person has at that time resolved in their minds what they're going to do. They have resolved in their minds what they're going to do. And many times they've resolved in their minds that they're going to definitely kill themselves. And so that is not a time to let them out, or let them what it might be. Many times you find people who start giving away very important stuff to them, important things that were very important to them. They started giving it away. They started giving very valuable stuff away, and so forth and so on. Be aware, heads up. It might be that person has resolved that they are no longer want to be here on this earth, and that they're resolved in their mind that they're going to kill themselves. And so there are some things you have to really just look for, especially as I said, don't hesitate to ask the person. You said that you don't want to live anymore, you're going to kill yourself. Do you have a plan? How are you going to go about doing it? And if they can really tell you, oh yeah, I have a plan. I'm going to go home, and what might be, I got my 45 in my drawer next to my bed. I'm going to drink me some liquor, what it might be. I'm going to wait until everybody leaves the house, and then I'm going to pull a devil and kill myself. Well, then you're not going to allow that person to get out there to themselves, because they can very easily do it. What Christ are they experiencing? The distress extreme is more likely the person might respond in a more active way. And yes, you want to find out, like this guy, one of the things that was very terrible for him was that he was forced. It was a forced retirement. It was forced retirement. This young lady, one of the situations that mom didn't really didn't think was such a big deal. But for this young lady, her dad had gone and got stationed at another place, and Dad had mentioned to her that he was going to send for them. 1 year, 2 years later, no Dad, and found out that Dad had married again. And so therefore, she was very close to her father. And so therefore, that's just really just knocked her overboard there in terms of, oh, for goodness sakes, So she was very angry. And so, you need to find out what the person is experiencing. Do you sense any symptoms of emotional disturbance such as depression? And many times, there's always that element of depression. Many times I call it clinical depression, where the person is almost immobilized and they're obsessed with doing away with themselves as such. Psychosis, well, there are some persons, if there is some sort of psychotic or sort of losing contact with reality and hearing voices telling them to kill themselves, what it might be, that's another thing to really be aware of. And of course, this, when you have a course such as psychopathology, it really familiarizes you with a lot of the known disorders, not only in those of adults, but also in those of young people also, which give you more of a knowledge in terms of maybe being able to determine what is depression, maybe determine what is psychotic, what is psychosis, and the agitation, of course, you've seen when a person agitates the pace, what it might be. The agitation mind is racing. The most serious is a depressed, agitated state. And that's one of the deals here where there's some element of depression, but the person is able and capable of moving. The person is able and got energy as such. Because why? That means that they do have and can have the capacity to do away with themselves. When the person is depressed, clinical depression, are depressed as such, but not agitated, many times they just don't have the energy to even get out of bed as such. Then other categories of risk include recently bereaved or divorced. Yes, I've heard someone just tell me when the wife had mentioned about, hey, I don't want to be married to you anymore, and for a long time, and just boom, just said it on the spot there, shocked me as well as the husband. And of course, the husband went into a semi-depression, started talking about wanting to kill himself, as if he's been the same as someone having killed him, or shot him or something. In terms of the divorce, alcoholics, of course, and other substance abusers, male homosexual and sexual deviants, all these kinds of dynamics can play a part in terms of persons getting into a state of mind where they no longer want to really live and can become very suicidal. It probably will amaze you, but it would not amaze me, the amount of persons who are in our midst, amount of persons who are in our churches, even persons who are in our homes and families who are suffering from some form of depression and who have thoughts about killing themselves as such, but have not really told anyone as such. There are a lot of persons just in our midst are entertaining those kinds of things. And every once in a while it comes out where you read about it. You've read about many times the past teenagers. It's almost being as if when one starts doing it, then what it might be is in the newspaper we have others who are doing it, so forth and so on. So definitely some things that you need to look at and be aware of that might give you an idea this person might be somewhat suicidal. might go into a suicidal state as such. They're really a very unfortunate situation, even close to home, where I was a very good friend of mine, an excellent student, A student. She always, of course, I wasn't an A student myself, you know, but she was an A student, but I was good in algebra and stuff, and so therefore, at least I can boast of making A's in algebra and so forth and so on. But she was just making just all A's all the time in terms of all through school, high school, and everything. Her dad was an achiever and so forth and so on, and so she. One of the things that always bothered me is that when she had a certain kind of anger that always troubled me at times. And we were just young persons growing up, but that anger I saw was really troubling. And so when she graduated from her high school, she went to a well-known university. And of course, I graduated from my high school, and nobody gave me any kind of scholarship, so I had to work. I went to an okay university working as such, you know. And it just so happened that when I went back home and inquired about the welfare of my friend, someone had mentioned, well, did you know if she got married? I said, no. I said, well, she got married, and she was, also she was still going to the university, but it just so happened that one day she ended up killing herself. Well, that really threw me for a loop, you know, in terms of that. That really hurt, and I don't think I've recovered from that really yet, in all honesty. And I really thought back, and it just so happened, and I think someone mentioned that it was a grade that she got. I don't know, was it a B or a C, but it's a grade that she got. And that was so devastating for her that she just took her life. And so therefore, you know, we have to have heads up in terms of even some of the pressures that we put on people. You asked the question, do they have any religious background or practice? In a few cases, religious beliefs may hinder a person's ability to carry out a suicide threat. Although statistically, religious preference and beliefs seem to have little effect. Another deal, can you identify resources that the person might have? Can family help, their minister, friends, or relatives? People contemplating suicide might feel that they have no resources when in fact they have many. And that some people, no resources, no help. And you look in terms of what kind of lifestyle do they lead. Is it stable or unstable? You look at that, you know, and kind of check it out. Are they still communicating to others? The less communication, the greater the risk of suicide. Some people have a tendency to isolate themselves. Are they in a medical field? Individuals with terminal illnesses or who feel they might have a terminal illness are more likely candidate for suicide. It's something to think about. And so therefore, we're going to stop here at the moment. When we resume, we're going to look at some high-risk situations, and then we'll just go from there.